Our Foreign Affairs CS has been traveling the world since he got his job 4 months ago. I'm serious. He literally lives in an aircraft. You must be a very busy man, Daktari. Welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see you, my friend, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
It's good
to
to
you
see you're
too.
looking in good form,
And you?
as usual, you know. And I was just sitting here thinking about how many times you've interviewed me.
Yes.
And how you interviewed me when I was running for governor.
Correct.
Before I became governor.
Yes.
You know, and we talked about the things that we wanted to do, and it looks just like yesterday, but it's been a while.
Look at that.
It's been a while, yeah.
Time flies.
We have grown, and God has been very good to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, from Machakos governor to national level now where you sit, what's the transition been like?
It's been all right because now, first of all, I want to say thank you to President William Ruto for appointing me to this very, very important post and for being a good leader who believes in teamwork and working together. And also thanking a lot of people who are who've been very supportive and praying for me and praying for all of us. And your viewers, you know, people watch this show from all over the world. You know, there are people seated in New Jersey, in the US watching. There are people seated in all corners of the world, you know, at home, watching this show. And so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
You've reached beyond just the borders of Kenya. So you're part of my people. You know, you take this to the diaspora, which is very good.
Absolutely.
But I'm very grateful to God. Because I was a governor and because I was a government spokesperson before that in the national government, the transition has been quite easy. It's not been difficult. I know how government systems work. I know how things operate in the national government. So it's not brand new to me. But it's brand new in the sense that now we have a different type of president who has different expectations and a different style of leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go region by region.
Cheers.
We'll start with Ukraine, Russia.
Okay.
You are Kenya's voice out there and the president's representative. What is Kenya's position on the Ukraine war right now? Do we have a position at all?
Yeah, we have a position. Kenya has been very clear. We are not flimsy. We're very clear. We say that the integrity of our country's sovereignty has to be protected and respected. And we have joined the rest of the world in the United Nations in voting against the actions taken against Ukraine, that the war is unnecessary. At this time and age, we don't think that war is necessary in any part of the world. And so Kenya has been very clear in our vote, in our stand. We have supported in the United Nations in New York the positions that have been taken by the United Nations against the war in Ukraine, or the conflict in Ukraine that is going on. So we've stood with our brothers and sisters in conflict, but we've said that it is not just a matter of sending bullets, it's not a matter of just helping Ukraine fight off. It's important for us to be able to bring all the warring parties to the table diplomatically and talking about it. If you look at the history of war, from the Renaissance period in the 1700s, you know, to the Crusades, to the First and Second World War, war never ended because somebody was basically vanquished, you know, completely. It's also because during even the vanquishing, people sat down and talked. And we think that it's better to talk now, sort out the issues, than talk when people have died. And there's been so much, you know, mayhem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you were talking about weapons and it's not about bullets and stuff, but yesterday in Davos, Switzerland,
yes,
European leaders were calling upon their fellow colleagues to supply arms, to supply more, to help Ukraine more. Should Kenya be taking a more firmer stand at this point?
No, we've already taken a very firm stand. You see, we are, as part of what is called the Global South, we've taken a very strong stand in saying that we support clearly the positions of the United Nations, and we support our brothers in Ukraine. But that does not mean that we are going to look at Russia as a pariah state. We are not going to say we are not talking to Russia, for example, because we need to talk to everyone. If you want people to be able to listen to you, if you want to have credibility in bringing peace and stability, you have to talk to all the players. And that's our position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Kenya enjoy any particular influence with either Ukraine or Russia at this point?
Yes, we do. They are friendly nations. They listen to what our opinion. They know that Kenya has a very strong following. Kenya is an anchor country when it comes to diplomacy in the continent of Africa. Whatever position Kenya takes, the others look closely, and we influence you know, the conversation and the shape of diplomacy in the continent. So Kenya plays a very central role. You cannot ignore the position that Kenya takes in the African continent and even beyond.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the latest update on Kenyans living in the Ukraine? We know there's quite a few Kenyan students in the Ukraine. We also know Kenyans living in Russia, a lot of them in Moscow and other St. Petersburg and other areas. What's the latest?
We had people who are trapped in Ukraine, who in the warring area. You have to realize that it's not all parts of Ukraine that are under attack. It's only sections and areas closer to the Russian border. And so we don't have any Kenyans that have cried out to us in danger. Some of them were evacuated, and they have continued. The Kenyans in Russia are continuing their life as normal. The same people in Moscow are continuing their daily life, and other places, Leningrad, the so-called Leningrad, and other places. Life is continuing. So we don't have what you'd call a crisis for Kenyans in the region at this time.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move over to China.
Yes.
China has recently opened up its country completely, even traveling, you name it. They said China is open for business. What is Kenya's present relationship with China, and also especially when it comes to travel between the two countries? What's the latest?
Kenya are our friend. China is Kenya's very good friend, and China has stood with us throughout. And our policy is to continue interacting and working with China. China has invested heavily in our continent, and especially in our country, Kenya. They have helped us in many things, and they are friends. And so we've been talking to them to open up. We want to be able to do more trading with China. But what we are pushing for in the government of William Ruto is economic diplomacy. It's not about you just coming here to do work here. It's about how we can get our goods to China, how we can get our avocados to China, how they can open up their markets, China and other countries, for us to be able to send our goods over there, how they can open up their markets and their labor market especially for our qualified people to work in their countries. That's how we're looking at it, and we're asking every country that I interact with, every country that the president interacts with, we're also asking ourselves, what is it in there for us as Kenyans? What's our self-interest? And right now, our self-interest is economic diplomacy, is being able to trade with other countries. Yes, aid is important, but we are thinking more of trade rather than aid. Hatutaki mambo ya unapatia mtu samaki, nataka tuchukue na ndoano ya kujivulia samaki. That's our foreign policy direction. Push towards, we are relating with you, but we want to do business with you. We don't just want you to do business with us, we want to do business with you. We want to partner so that as much as you're coming here, you're selling your goods to Kenya, your TVs, your phones, everything, we want to sell our products to you. And we're going to be adding value to agricultural products. We're going to get into manufacturing so we can sell our products to those countries.
All right. Let's come back to the African continent. Congo, DRC.
Yes, Congo.
Recently, Kenya deployed troops there. How has that affected the peace process?
I don't know if you watched the movie Jurassic Park.
I have.
You remember the first one?
Yes,
the first
the original one, yes.
The original one. And I think one of the scientists talks about how when a butterfly flaps its wings in one corner of the world, it causes a hurricane in another, or a tornado in another part of the world. And it's a chaos theory. One thing affects another one. What we are seeing in the DRC is especially for us in this Great Lakes region is an example of that phenomena. We cannot ignore the DRC because peace and stability in DRC is peace and stability in the continent of Africa. Instability in the DRC is instability in Central Africa and the whole of African continent. We have looked at the problem in the DRC. DRC has had many problems from the times it was called Zaire. I remember I went to Congo to interview Joseph Kabila, and I remember he sat on the same chair, corner rather, where his father was murdered from, in the
Yes.
in the palace in Kinshasa, and we talked. He was 3 months old into office, Joseph Kabila, and I remember going to Kinshasa and there were bullet holes everywhere, and we were all afraid, everything. So it's a country that has been in flux. You talk about their history from the time they killed Patrice Lumumba. Throughout, Mobutu Sese Seko, throughout, they have never had real peace and stability in that country. It's always been a faction. And it's a curse of the minerals. It's a curse of being a very rich country where everybody wants a piece of that country, and et cetera, et cetera. So for us as Kenya and as East Africa, we do believe that it is time for Africans to solve their own problems. It is time for us to find solutions that are not only African-based, but also that whose benefits at the end of the day are the Africans. Because a lot of these wars, a lot of these factions that you see in these countries are sponsored by people who don't live in the continent of Africa, who can watch the news on TV in the evening and they don't feel much about the refugees because their children are not refugees, but they're sponsoring, you know, some of these things. So we want an African-based solution to the problem in DRC Congo. There are two processes going on, you're aware. There's the Luanda process, and also the Nairobi process. And what we're trying to tell the people of Congo is that we are there for you. We are going to stand there with you. There are different groups that are fighting. We had a meeting here in Nairobi, opened by Excellency the President William Ruto. And we had gotten maybe about 200 groups, all fighting. Basically brought them up here, put them in a room and locked the door and told them talk to each other. I mean, in a country with over 200 groups that are warring and fighting against each other, means the country with a problem, you know, that really needs solving, and we're able to sort out that issue. There are other groups that are still fighting, and we've said that we have sent our troops as a buffer, so that the troops that are fighting, we tell them, okay, some of them feel that they are fighting because their people are in danger. And all this is also tied into the Holocaust, genocide rather, of the Rwanda genocide. So there's a lot of dynamics, you know, of that region. So we are saying Kenyan troops are there so that the other troops that are feeling that they have to be there, the rebels, to protect their people, can withdraw, and so that we can be able to talk and have stability in the region. Yeah.
Okay, the question a lot of people are asking is Kenya's intervention in this. How has it affected our relationship with other friendly countries or other countries involved in the conflict? Uganda, Rwanda. What's our relationship with them? Actually,
it has improved. You know, for a long time, Uganda and Rwanda were the only ones dealing with that issue and with that conflict, you know, involving all of them. But now Kenya jumping in. You saw our president went to Kinshasa, met the president. Our president has had long conversations with the Rwandese president, Kagame. Our president talks to Museveni, went to Uganda and had discussion of that issue. We were in the Africa-US Summit, and there was a meeting. And I sat in that meeting of heads of state of the region, discussing Tanzania, East African heads of state, Burundi, our chair, you know, of East African Commission at this time. We sat at a table, all these countries discussing the DRC, all in harmony. And they're very happy with Kenya's intervention. Kenya has shown leadership in this region. We have not waited. We have taken leadership. We've said we are going to lead from the front. We are going to galvanize everybody. And it's not only there. It's also, I know the question is coming, you know, Ethiopia and Eritrea. We have shown leadership. We are not just standing back because we do care about our friends. We care about what happens in the DRC. We care about what happens in Rwanda and Uganda and all our neighbors in Tanzania. We care, but we don't just care by word of mouth. We care by action. You know, we've put our necks on the line because we know what affects the people there will also affect our people here. And they are brothers and sisters. Even for no other reason, we want them to live well the way God intended them to live.
The president has assigned his predecessor, President Uhuru Kenyatta, as one of the main, you know, I guess the point.
The facilitator.
The facilitator of both DRC and also the Tigray Ethiopia. How's he doing?
He's doing very well. You see, Uhuru has been a president for 10 years. He's been a political leader for a long time, Uhuru Kenyatta. And he's well respected, you know, in the region. And he's able to work with others. And he's doing a splendid job, if you ask me.
Yeah. With President Kenyatta as a facilitator, you also mentioned AU is there. EAC is there. There's so many players in there. Does that affect that ecosystem there? Is it a little complicated?
No, there are not too many players. You see, it's just the AU and the EAC. And also we've got the SADC through Luanda. What we're saying is that all of them are under the umbrella of the African Union. And the African Union passed a resolution about African solutions for African problems. So we're all responding to that problem. It's like, let me give you an example. It's like fighting crime. You know, you say we want to take this crime head on. And so that's the main principle of the Ministry of Interior. So what happens? The police are involved, the general police, the administrative police are involved, the DCI involved. So all these are involved, but the principle is a principle of the African Union, that we Africans can sort out our own issues. And we can tell others, stand back and watch. We'll be able to sort it out.
Yeah.
But we're also very grateful, extremely grateful, for support by the international community. They have come up supporting us financially, supporting us in kind, also making phone calls from many different countries. And I really, really want to appreciate that support. And more keeps on coming because of the range, the nature of our economy, the climate change that has affected our food supply and our economy shrinking. We may not be able to afford to carry out some activities because we are wanting at home. So they have come in and jumped in, and they support the position that we've taken as Kenya.
Yeah. Ethiopia, how is that going? How's that peace process going with Tigray?
It's going very well, and I want to say that I want to thank the Ethiopian government because initially we were scared. We were quite worried that the Ethiopians would use their blunt force to say, we'll do whatever we can. We said, how many bodies have to die? How many rivers have to be full of blood before people realize it's not proper, enough is enough. And so it's going very well. Our president flew to Asmara and met the president of Eritrea and talked, and we're expecting the president to visit us sometime in the near future. So we have good relations. So Kenya is leading from the front. Our president is an action-oriented president. He doesn't wait until the wound becomes, a major, how do you say it? Sore that
Yes.
the leg has to be cut.
Yeah.
He tackles it at the start. And so that's our foreign policies, that we jump in when it's about time to jump in and take care of that. Same thing, I know you're coming to that, South Sudan. Our president went to South Sudan. And he's doing this because we know this is a big market. This is a big market for Kenyan labor force. This is a big market for our trade and businesses. Our biggest trade is done, among, in the East African sector. So if we don't sort out our market, if we don't sort out our neighbors and everything, we are the ones who will suffer. We have the biggest economy in the region. We have the strongest economy. We have the drive. So we are the ones who suffer the most. So we are taking the lead, not because of just Kenya's foreign policy, but because we care about how it affects the Kenyans sitting at home today.
Yeah.
We want Kenyans to succeed. And for Kenyans to succeed, the region has to be peaceful, stable, and rich enough to do business with us.
Sure.
Unajua sisi ni watu wa biashara.
Kabisa.
Kabisa.
Daktari, let's move on to Somalia.
Yes.
It's been almost a dozen years. This year will be a dozen years since Operation Linda Inchi. Any chances of that changing anytime soon? Are we going to bring our soldiers home anytime soon?
I remember, and I think you remember because we are about the same age, when Said Barre was the president of Somalia, and there was relative peace, and then there was an overthrow of a government. That's when say, people are hailing Kenya's democracy in the last elections, because when you start using the military to overthrow governments, it can go downhill as it has done in Somalia and everything. We took our troops to that country because at that time there was no solid government. We are working very well with the president, the new president of Somalia. We are talking. We are working with all our partners in that region, our international community. And yes, we look forward to the day that our troops will be withdrawn, when we don't have to have our troops, they're just supporting base. So basically we're talking about securing our border and taking care of our interests in that area. And the interests are stability of our country. So we don't want our troops in other foreign countries. I don't want to see Kenyan troops fighting in the DRC, in Somalia, and other countries. We don't. But we are playing a role for the sake of our people, for the sake of our region. We care about Somalia. I mean, you look at our country here, Kenya. We've got people of Somali heritage, got people of, of Ugandan heritage, people of, Tanzanian heritage, people of Ethiopian heritage. We care, and some of them are Kenyans. And so we care about our region because we want stability and happiness. Look at Europe, for example. You see, the European Union is able to trade very well because they have peace and stability. That's why they are very worried about the Ukraine matter, because it cuts down the supply of gas, supply of fertilizers, supply of all these things, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the same here. So we are jumping in, not because we want to interfere, but we want relative peace and stability to enjoy, as Moi Kibaki used to say, late president.
Oh man, you worked under her as well. There's a question that there's a time Kenya and Somalia had pulled out each other's top diplomats. Remember, we had withdrawn our top diplomats. Somalia did the same. How's our relationship now?
It's fantastic. When we were in Washington, D.C., on the sidelines, President William Ruto met the leadership of Somalia, the president of Somalia, and they had a very good conversation. I'm in contact with my counterpart of that country, and we're in very good relations, and we're very happy about it.
Great.
Yes.
From Somalia, let's move to South Africa.
Yes, yes.
What's the latest on the visa application plan, or the free visas for Kenyans, which started, what, this month, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. What is that? What's the latest on that?
It's going very well. The reports I have on my desk is that everything is proceeding very well. This was a hard bargain. You know, I mean, we were here for the bilaterals, and it became an issue. The issue was, why are South Africans being allowed to come to our country visa-free, and yet Kenyans are not allowed? And they had all these reasons because of our border controls, people coming into Kenya and then transiting to... and we said, come on, we can work together on this, because it's very beneficial to Kenyans. And what we got and what we bargained for is what other people have bargained for, you know, throughout, and that is to have good relations for our business people. You can travel to South Africa up to 90 days in a year without requiring a visa, which is more than many people need. If you have to spend more than 90 days there, just get a visa and you'll get a visa. So this opens up and it relaxes the whole visa regime, not only for visitors, but entire for workers, for business people, for traders and everything. And it's great for us. You know, South Africa is a very big market. We looked at the balance of trade. For example, South Africa doesn't get its tea from Kenya. It gets its tea from another country. The other country imports tea from Kenya, fuses it kidogo and sells it to South Africa. Now we want to sell it directly to South Africa. Let our people make money here in Kenya without it going around the circles. They are heavily in manufacturing. We are looking at our relations in filmmaking, for example. A lot of movies are made in South Africa. They have the capacity. Now we want to make them in Kenya and South Africa. And so that partnership goes more than, it's bigger than just Amapiano.
I see you like Amapiano. Is the relationship reciprocal?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah?
It is, yeah. I mean, we had a state visit here by the president of South Africa, and so we're in very good hands and very good stead with the Republic of South Africa. But they are our friends, and we've supported them for a long time, and they trust us, and they believe in Kenya, and our foreign policies are very similar.
Yeah.
They are also members of, you know, one of the, let me talk about money a little bit, you know, about Pesa Mfukoni. There's African Free Continental, Africa Continental Free Trade.
Correct.
Whereby we want the whole of the continent of Africa to be one big market, so that you don't have all these tariffs, you don't have all this being stopped, all these regulations across, so that in Kenya you can sell your goods to Ghana, you can sell your goods to Angola, South Africa and others. And this is a unifying trade, you know, agreement that will ensure that all of us can be able to do business together. And so we are signed in with this. And there's another tripartite agreement with SADC, with the East African Commission, with the region, so that we can also even do more biashara with each other. And that's where we are going to. It's all about economic diplomacy. It's all about how we can do business with each other, how we can make money, how we can have our labor force in other countries in the diaspora, etc., etc.
But Dr. you know as well as we do that, you know, diplomacy is all about you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is.
So this relationship with South Africa, does it extend beyond the 90 days? Let's say a work permits,
yes,
or you know, people staying there for longer periods. Does it extend to that, or does that now become something else?
You see, yeah, it does, because I said, you see, when you have a free visa regime for just entry, it relaxes the other regimes, because you're already accepting them to come here. So you look at them positively about the other regimes. And the thing about South Africa is there are very many South African companies. I mean, you've got some banks here. I don't want to mention banks here. You know, they have not paid me enough to mention them on here. But, you know, who are South African, which are banks, South African banks who are operating in Kenya. South African companies really want to come and invest in Kenya. Kenyans want to invest in South Africa. So it is it's a mutual beneficial relationship. Yeah.
Okay. From South Africa, let's move to the Middle East, a place you've just come from very recently.
Yes,
you've traveled there several times since you were appointed Cabinet and Diaspora Affairs Secretary. And there are a lot of Kenyans who are very anxious, especially in Saudi Arabia. We see pictures of body bags, of coffins, Kenyans being brought back home. And we're wondering what's going on.
Let me start by saying that after I was sworn in, my first trip was to Saudi Arabia. we were worried, and I went there, you know, very, very, you know, I don't want to say hot-headed, but I went there kama nimewaka moto. I wanted to know what is happening to our Kenyans, why are we seeing Kenyans. But when I got there, the story is a bit different than what we're seeing. You see, we have over 200,000 Kenyans in Saudi Arabia.
200,000.
200,000 Kenyans.
Saudi Arabia alone.
Saudi Arabia alone. 60% are in the professions. They are nurses, they are doctors, they are technicians in ICT, making lots of money. Actually, we're getting a lot of money from Saudi Arabia to this country in terms of remittances, I think, than most other countries in the world. It's not as bad as it sounds. Now, our job is to take care of the Kenyans in Saudi Arabia. So it doesn't matter whether it's bad for one Kenyan or 2 Kenyans or 100 Kenyans. As long as it's bad for one Kenyan, it's very bad. So I went there and I wanted to know what is really going on. And I asked them, why are you killing our people? Why are you torturing our people? And they said, which people are we killing? Who are you torturing? And then I looked at the story. This is what happens. And I'll say it here. I don't think people realize what is happening. Saudi Arabia, the problems are 2. Let me start from here. The first problem here is that we've got agencies. And we have been pushing the Minister of Labor to actually get its act together. And now they have a new minister who is, you know, very, you know, no pun intended, chap, you know, who will get this act together.
Right.
We've got agencies here that recruit Kenyans to go there as domestic workers, to work in homes. And this is it's a first world country. They have microwaves, they have washing machines, they have woofers, they have all those things. They are supposed to train these Kenyans, take them through a rigorous training, how you use a microphone, microwave, how you use a hoover, how you use a dishwasher, how you use how to turn on electric lights, how to make beds and everything. So that you go there as a trained domestic worker. What do? They go to Kadhonzweni, they go to Kadhiani, they go to West Pokot, you know, they go to Isiolo, they go to Mukurweini, they find these, you know, young girls. They ask him, do you want to make a lot of money? Yes, let's go. They bring these girls here, they put them in a room, they process their papers, then they see those girls, the next thing they are at the airport with their documents. They see their contract at the airport, telling them how much money they'll be making, what the agency is getting, everything paid off. They get Saudi Arabia. Wanafika hapo, wanaona microwave, wanaweka kijiko ndani, inalipuka. Wanaona nguo za kuosha, mashini ya kuosha nguo, wanaweka masahani, inavunjika. Hoover, hawajui, wanaigongesha, wanafikiri wanakata nyasi nayo. I mean, things are chaotic. Our girls are suffering, you know, because of the greed of these agencies that do not want to put money into properly training our people. Not all, but quite a number, you know, because it costs money to train. And these are people who are torturing Kenyans. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is when you go to Saudi Arabia, it's a country that tells you very clearly, you come here, you work. You don't want to work, say you're quitting, and you go home. Very clearly. But stay at the place you're working. When I was there, I was surprised that when 100 Kenyans get there, about 20, 30 vanish at the airport. They don't get to their intended destination.
Where do they go?
They are picked up by other Kenyans. Not by foreigners, by other Kenyans, to undertake illicit activity, illegal activities. Kenyans go, they work in a house, maybe, and then they are told by their friends, you know, you're making 40,000 shillings a month, 50,000 shillings a month. There's a side activity here I can show you. You'll be making 200 shillings a pop, 300,000 shillings a pop. Within 2 months, you can build your mother a house. Wetoka kazini kuja tufanye kazi. Others are being told, stop working for this person. You can work for this person, they pay more. Even though that person never paid any money to get those people from Kenya to come to Saudi Arabia. So they fall out of status, they become runaways. Now the system is very clear. You are sponsored by your employee, by your employer. When you are sick, when you go to the hospital, you're given free treatment, but you have a card that shows who has employed you. When you fall out of status, then you're now an illegal because you're no longer, you've broken your visa status. So you cannot get treatment but they have not stopped you from getting treatment. Any Kenyan in Saudi Arabia can wake up today, go to any hospital in Saudi Arabia and get full treatment, theater, everything, 100% free. But if you're out of status, they'll treat you and then they'll deport you. So Kenyans who don't want to be deported don't go to hospital. They stay at home with the other Kenyans who are runaways. So when you see Kenyans with videos being taken, they're being taken by other Kenyans, and they're not being taken at their workplace. They're runaways. And they're taking Panadol, because that's all you can get at the chemist without a prescription. And you can't get a prescription because you can't see a doctor. If you see a doctor, they'll get you arrested and then deported to Kenya. But they don't want to be deported to Kenya, they want to work illegally.
Yeah.
So, it's a whole mix there. And what I want to tell Kenyans is this. If you're employed and you're there and you have distress, and maybe you feel like you're being mistreated or you're being mistreated, we have given a hotline, which I can read on air.
Yeah.
For the
Is it working?
Yeah, it is working. It's working. You know, my things work, bro. You know, Viruzangu Azizami. You know? So we have a hotline,
Yeah.
which is the embassy, and that is +966. That is the area code.
Yeah.
500 755 060. That is +966 500 755 060. We even have a toll-free number you can call, and that is 19911. 19911. So we've got a number that you can call, and there's somebody manning it 24/7, and they'll respond. If they're not manning it, write to me as a minister, and I'll get them fired. You know, because we want our Kenyans to be supported. We're supporting our Kenyans. So if somebody's abusing you, and we've had conversations with the Saudi government, we told them, why are your men, why are your women abusing our people? And they have said, show me the people abusing, and we'll get them arrested. Because they have signed the International Labour Agreement,
Right.
labor law, you know, labor laws. They have the new laws in Saudi Arabia. So when I went there, I met a lot of Kenyans, and I met many Kenyans in the private sector who said, I work. In the hotel I was staying in, there were Kenyans working as waiters. There were Kenyans working as managers in the hotel I stayed in. When I went out to walk around in the stores, I found Kenyans working in the malls. When I had meetings with Kenyans, I met Kenyan doctors, Kenyan nurses, Kenyan teachers, professionals, making a lot of money in Saudi Arabia, a lot of money, and sending it home, you know, to build this country.
Yeah.
But then I also met the women who are suffering, and it's mostly women, who went as domestic workers. And I had a one-on-one with them, and there were very, very many girls there, and a lot of girls came with their children, and those children were children who are not from Kenyan fathers, you know. And I had private meetings with some of these girls, and they told me what they have been doing, what has been going on, how sick they feel.
And are you going to do something about it?
Yes, we're doing a lot about it. We've got a center, there's an NGO that is helping called Sakan Center. We've got a lot of organizations that are helping. Our government is helping. We're getting the exit visas to come. For example, girls were saying, we want to go home, but when I want to go home, they say I can't go with my child. Because Saudi Arabians are telling us, you have to prove it's your child. Because people can have a child, halafu nikupatie sema ni mtoto wako, pelekea mama yangu kule Machakos. Pelekea mama yangu kule Busia. Pelekea mama yangu, you know what I mean, eh?
Yeah.
So we agreed, and when I was there, we initiated a system. If this is your child, and you want to go home, come back to Kenya, we just take you to hospital, you do a DNA test, they indicate that you are actually the mother of this child, then we give you exit papers, we give you documents to come home, so that you're not participating in child trafficking, because you can be accused of trafficking children. Yeah. You can bring children, then the mother says, somebody stole my child, and then you know what I mean? Yeah. So we've set up systems. My permanent secretary in charge of diaspora, Rosalind Njogu, was there, and she went through the centers. So we are working a lot, you know. Kenyans die all over the world. And it's unfortunate, at times they fall down, they die, they are sick, natural sickness, and they die not necessarily because they were tortured by anybody, but they fall sick and they die, and we help repatriate them. There's a Kenyan girl who died the other day from Makueni, and her employer said, I'll even pay for her body. We miss her. She was working with us. She fell sick, we took her to hospital, she was treated, she died. We'll even pay for the repatriation of our body to Kenya. So it's not all gloom as you hear. So, and there are many opportunities, and you have to tell Kenyans, if you're a professional, you want to go. And one of the things we've been debating with them is that we don't want a lot of Kenyans going there as domestic workers. We've got a lot of people who have finished university in Kenya, who can work in the ICT industry, who can work in the motor industry, who can work in so many industries. We are debating, and we are about to sign a labor agreement with them so that we get more professionals to be allowed to go over there to Saudi Arabia. So prepare yourself, Kenyans, to go and work.
You were talking about some of the agencies earlier on.
Yes, yes.
And there was talk that, some of the agencies may be owned by high-level government officials here.
I've had the talk too.
What do you think?
I don't think there's any problem by any government official owning an agency as long as there's no conflict of interest. I don't think there's any crime for anybody doing business if there's no conflict of interest or no corruption. But we have to make sure that whatever agency, regardless of who owns it, follows the law. And I think that the Ministry of Labour has to get its act together. It's been a bit, but the new minister is really, she was there also, and she's taken charge, and we have direct and clear and precise and concise instructions from the head of state to get our act together and get this sorted out.
What do you think the whole Saudi, the labor situation, does it fall under foreign affairs? Does it fall under trade and industry? Does it fall under labor? Which category does it fall?
One of the things that the president was very keen to say, and we had a very, very big retreat, is that we don't think in silos anymore. It's one government. When there's a problem, it's not just a problem of Ministry of Health or Ministry of Labor or Ministry of Roads. It is all our problem. It's collective. And we are working on this. As the minister in charge of the diaspora, whenever you leave this country, Jeff, and you get into an airplane and you cross the border, you're my problem. You're a member of my diaspora now. You go live there, take care of you. So the other supporting agents support you, but I'm responsible for you when you're out of this country. So my job is to make sure that we are aligned, that the rest of the government agencies are aligned to do the work they're supposed to do, to help anybody who is in the diaspora. And we want to get more Kenyans to the diaspora. And we're working very hard. There are job opportunities in Australia, job opportunities in UK, job opportunities in Canada, job opportunities all over the world where we want to send Kenyans. And that's part of my job, is to create employment activities for Kenyans who are also ready and are investing here. I was talking to our ambassador in Ireland today, and Mr. Mubea, and he was telling me about how Kenyans in the diaspora have bought a big piece of land here near Konza area, and they're putting a huge housing estate, putting billions of shillings. And they're putting even a center, to take care of our children who are, challenged. And so we've got Kenyans in the diaspora who are pumping money here. And we're looking at those diaspora committees, diaspora associations, who want to even have a diaspora bond, who want to put money into Kenya. We want them to save their money here. So instead of borrowing money, we can get the money from the diaspora, we pay them back slowly, but when they come here, wanakanyaga nchi yao kwa nguvu na raha, because the road they're working on was built by money from Kenyans from the diaspora. We are facilitating them to get money here. And our diaspora is remitting. We are now making more money in foreign exchange from our diaspora than from tourism or from tea, from coffee, from our cash crops. So, and we've got a very good export in this country called the diaspora. Kenyans are smart. I know you've traveled, my friend.
Yep.
You can't compare us to other people. We are sharp. We are articulate. We are good looking. we are very, very
hardworking.
I was coming to that. Extremely, not just hardworking, extremely hardworking. Yeah. We are creative. Look at the memes that come out about you. Kenyan market is amazing. It's like second to none in this world. Yeah. We want to get Kenyans going overseas. If they decide to be citizens there, hakuna shida. Wacha, unajua Kenyans, we have this history, Kenyan comes here, goes overseas, anazaa huko, Kenyan blood, inakuwa president, inakuwa prime minister. Sasa, it's good for us, Part of the diaspora,
Yes. One more question before we go to break, and it's actually Wahiga Maura was asking about this, yes. Still with Saudi Arabia. He was saying, look, maybe you were given the VIP tour. Maybe you were given the whole diplomatic tour, and they wanted you to avoid, those the domestic workers.
No, I met them. We did a blanket announcement that I'm there, let them come. And they came, and they were I mean, it was heartbreaking to meet some of them. If you go to my Facebook, you'll see some of the pictures. Yeah, some of them didn't want to be seen, their faces. Some of them are not quite well. They're ill. And yeah, I met them and I talked to them.
Yeah.
I just didn't listen to to my diplomatic staff. I just didn't listen to, I talked to the real Kenyans myself. I talked to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do what Uganda has done, and that's suspending all recruitment for now until the situation is solved with Saudi Arabia. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, we thought, actually that was one of my recommendations when I was there, and wanted to do that. And we went back and forth with the Saudi Arabian government. It said, what message are you sending? Because this is not the collective of all the Kenyans that come here. It's a smaller percentage of the Kenyans that are working here. Because you suspend it, that means a Kenyan engineer who just got a prime job with their family, moving to Saudi Arabia, they can't go to Saudi Arabia. And we don't send a negative message. And we are trying to sort that problem. If it doesn't get sorted, we may end up being there. But I do believe it to be sorted. You know, the problem is, to a large extent, you know, President said this other day when we were overseas with him, is that it's a large extent Kenyan. You know, and let me take this opportunity to say that if you look at our passports, for example, I'm working so hard to get our passport up. You know, some ratings, we are about 122nd in terms of the strength of our passport. Others say 80, but tuko huko chini. Some African countries, they can walk with their passports to the US and just walk in without a visa. Some nations can walk in, they get their visas in a day. They pay their visas, they enter. Why is it that it's so hard for a Kenyan to get a visa? It's not that the Americans don't like us or the British don't like us. It's because as Kenyans, we have this habit of breaking the rules. So you get a visa, for example, we talk about South Africa, you go to South Africa, 90 days, unakaa 200 days. You break the rules. Unaharibia wale wa Kenya wengine wazuri. You go there on a tourist visa, unajificha, unajifanya ni refugee. You know, it was very funny. I was in the US, I was in a place in Seattle, and one gentleman raised his hand and said, can you help us? I said, yes, I'll help you. Say, we are applying for asylum. So I want you to help us in the application for asylum. And they're applying for asylum by saying, Kenya is dangerous. We're being killed. You know, yeah. Our women are being taken from the streets and circumcised in Dale Broid. That's the kind of things they have put down. So they want us to help. So they are painting a very bad picture of Kenya. You know what I mean? And they went there as visitors or students and fell out of status. So they are ruining for the rest of us. Yeah. And every time I negotiate with countries, every time I talk to my colleagues about Kenyan passport, being able for, you know, the hustler to be able to go to any country, not just Wadosi, using the Kenyan passport, it comes back to, yes, but you know when Kenyans get here, etc, etc. Yes, but you give Kenyan the etc. People write to me, help me get an American visa. And they say, please, I just want to go there. I asked them, so they denied you? Yes, they denied me. You know, I just want to get a 3-month visa because my uncle is there and nitajipanga nifika huko. They're not planning to come back. No wonder they got denied the visa. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there are better ways of being able to do it. Yes, Kenyans, and it's a spirit of Kenyans, we like going out and seeking greener pastures. And it's okay. But we want to make it easier for you to seek greener pastures. When we were in the US, I was debating, I was pushing for what are called H visas. You know, the work visas, you know about them. Yep. So that our professionals, our nurses, our doctors, our ICT, our journalists can get an H visa to go and work in the US with their family for 5 to 10 years. Yep. You find a job, you go, you get it legally, without having to go and, you know what I mean? And when you are there, you can work, you can become a resident, you can get a Kenyan passport. You know what I mean? You can go there as a student, you qualify, and you become a resident, you qualify, you become a citizen if you want. There are legal ways you can do these things without ruining it for the rest of the Kenyans.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. What about the rest of the Emiratis? Kenyans?
We are taking care of all Kenyans in Qatar, Emiratis, and others. And let me say it plainly here. Maybe I shouldn't say it on air, but I think we are a government of speaking the truth. You know, Kenyans are business people. But you know, some of these countries in the Middle East, alcohol is illegal, you know? And yes, some of them sell alcohol, but you buy it in different places. Drink alcohol. You know, do you know there are Kenyans brewing changa in some of these places?
No.
I'm serious. Yeah. I mean, it breaks my heart. You're here debating about getting more Kenyans here, and there are Kenyans who work on changa dens, selling changa to other Africans. Illegality over an illegality.
Yeah.
in a Muslim country. You know, Kenyans are dying from me. Wengine wako wanapoteza macho. I can't see. You know, the things they do here, they're doing there.
Yeah.
And so that weakens our passport. That weakens our bargaining point. So I'm asking Kenyans, and you know, we don't have mercy on you. You know, you get rounded up and deported, we'll welcome you here. If you're convicted there, we'll say, let them come waende committee, because Chang'aa is illegal also here. You know what I mean? We take you over. So, I mean, it's creative, but we can be creative in other ends. But you see, it's because we've come from a point where our country for a long time has never thought about the people at the bottom. We've always thought about the people at the top. It's about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. Now we have a government that is saying all of us are Kenyans. It doesn't matter who you are born. It doesn't matter who your father or mother is. Nobody sends a postcard to be born a particular tribe. We are there for you. And this government is going to work for you from corner to corner of this country to make sure that you grow up with hope, with a dream that whatever you dream and aspire can come true. And then you don't have to undertake all these illegal activities to make do.
Absolutely. Dr. Ari, let's take a quick break, come back. There's plenty more to talk about. Diplomatic state. We'll talk about diaspora affairs. How's that going? We'll talk about Western Sahara.
Yes,
that tweet that lasted 9 minutes and then it was, it was switched to something else. We'll talk about all that and plenty more that has to do with foreign affairs. Wow. Great conversation with Kenya's top diplomat, foreign affairs and diaspora affairs Cabinet Secretary Dr. Alfred Mutua. Talking about everything that you want to know. And I know you have questions. Oh, by the way, that toll-free number, if you're in Saudi, plus 966 500 755 060. Again, plus 966 500 755 060. Or there's a toll-free number, 19911. Balozi, CS said it's working.
It's functioning.
It's functioning.
No, numbers don't work.
Yes.
My English teacher had me saying that, they beat me up. Yeah, the number is functioning.
Yeah.
And it's and if it's not functioning at any time, or what wamelele masikio, let me know. I'll take action.
You'll take care of
Hatutaki uzembe kwa hii serikali. Hapana.
I'm Chezi.
Hatuchezi. Wa Kenya kwanza. Kenyans first.
Kenyans first. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya, the hashtag JK Live. JK Live takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.